If you're a regular viewer of the show, if I ask you to name two things that I love about the Switch, there's a good chance you'd guess imports and RPGs. Yes, I love both these things, so I thought, why not smash them together into one video? So here I am, Jordan, along with Juan and James, to take you through all the RPGs on the Switch that are only available physically as imports. Now just remember that the Nintendo Switch is region free, so can play all games no matter where they are from. Plus, because we're so awesome, this list only includes those RPGs that have English. Prepare your wallets, RPG fans. What a better way to start a JRPG list than right at the beginning. Perhaps Dragon Quest wasn't the first, but it sure as hell cemented itself as one of the true grandfathers of the genre. The first 3 games in the series were released individually on the eShop, but Asian regions got the good stuff. 3 games on 1 cartridge in English. What a beauty. This triple pack is easily one of the most popular imports. Sure, a dose of nostalgia may be required, but these also serve as a fine history lesson for budding JRPG enthusiasts. You can't say you're a fan of the genre if you haven't played these.
I Am SETSUNA is the grandfather of Nintendo Switch imports. As a launch title for the Switch in Japan, it was the first physical exclusive that also included English on the cartridge, and it did take a while for people to catch on with the ramifications. You pop a Japanese cartridge in your Switch and voila, it plays in English. Genius. This is a nicely regarded JRPG that attempted to channel Chrono Trigger in its battle system, plus it includes a melancholy story with haunting piano music to make it an interesting experience, even though it was obviously made on a smaller budget.
Romancing Saga 3 was an unexpected but delightful physical release. Originally, it was a Super Nintendo classic that never saw a Western release until now. This Asian physical release came out after the digital release and so probably flew under the radar for many. It's a JRPG that, even back then, decided to do things its own way and avoided many tropes that the genre had already established. It probably won't gel with everyone, especially those expecting a standard 16-bit JRPG, but you have to admire it for what it tried to accomplish. Plus, the box art is awesome, a highly recommended import.
Final Fantasy VII on a Nintendo console, physically on a cartridge. Yes, the game that switched allegiances for the very reason of being too ambitious for a Nintendo cartridge is now on a Nintendo cartridge. What has happened to the world? Well, as Final Fantasy VII is my favourite game of all time, and I love Nintendo dearly, this is a dream come true for me and is my prized import, not in terms of rarity or price, but in the meaning behind it. It truly means a lot to me. Oh, by the way, it has the added bonus of Final Fantasy VIII Remastered in there too, so you get Final Fantasy VII and Triple Triad on 1 cartridge together. Essential. And before we get any further, if any of the games here have got you drooling and you want them to stand beautifully in your collection, then in the description and pinned comment there are affiliate links where you can find them for yourself. Any purchase that you make helps to support the SwitchWatch team and the content that we create for you. You guys are absolutely amazing and we love you. And to give something back, you can get 5% off every physical purchase from PlayAsia with the coupon code SwitchWatchTV. That's all one word, SwitchWatchTV, for 5% off your order and to support us at the same time.
Katana Kami, A Way of the Samurai Story, is a spin-off of the long-missed Way of the Samurai series. From a top-down viewpoint, this is an action dungeon-crawling RPG where you loot your enemy in order to save the girl, buying her freedom. This is a chunky game with 3 large dungeons, and as long as you make it through the first few hours, which can be a bit slow, you'll open up a very rewarding game.
Katana Kami, A Way of the Samurai Story.
ATELIER DUSK Trilogy is perhaps the release dreams are made of. 3 charming JRPGs that should have been destined for an eShop only release were miraculously put on 1 cartridge together with English thanks to PlayAsia. These ATELIER games are breezy JRPGs where you venture out into the world, looting materials and then getting your alchemical skills put to the test to make new things. They're full of personality, which is always the strong point of the series. This is a lot of bang for your buck and surely one of the highlights of any Switch collection.
For us, the creme de la creme of the Switch import scene thus far are the 3 games in the Super Robot Wars franchise. Yeah, we're bunching these 3 together. These are strategy RPGs, perhaps slightly basic in the gameplay department, but in the style department, oh boy do these games really excel more than any other. These 3 games, Super Robot Wars T, V, and X, really make the anime come to life, as it's a crossover of many anime and manga series where you feel like you're taking part in the show. The attack animations are just second to none and never get old, and you're constantly being amazed by the epic show that unfolds. I'd advise you to watch my reviews of them all, but to keep it short, T is the newest and perhaps the best in terms of characters. X is equally as good, but has the better setting, I feel. V is almost as awesome, but just a notch below the other 2. But don't worry, all 3 are very, very awesome. For us, the essential Switch imports. Sadly, Super Robot Wars T can only be played in English via the Asian version, not the Japanese. Don't buy that one. While the other 2 can be played in English on any of their releases up for import.
World of Final Fantasy Maxima, probably the most overlooked import on the Switch, not due to its rarity or anything, but it's just never talked about, and despite being one of the best games to import in terms of pure quality. This is a JRPG, and it's a celebration of the Final Fantasy series, bringing many characters together into one story with an interesting twist to the battle mechanics. It's a high quality title that should be owned by every Switch RPG fan. This flew under the radar due to the physical release only appearing in Southeast Asia and a long time after its digital release also. Do not sleep on this one.
Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon is an enhanced port of a cult classic Wii game. It's Final Fantasy's take on the Mystery Dungeon style of gameplay where you delve into dungeons to help the townsfolk regain their memories. It's a simple take on the genre, but one with a lot of polish, charm, and an absolutely amazing soundtrack full of reimagined songs from the franchise's glorious history. It's a fantastic game, very underrated, and more accessible than ever for those interested in getting into the Mystery Dungeon genre. Sadly, only Japan got a physical release of this, but thankfully it's ripe for import due to English being on the cartridge.
Omega Labyrinth Life is perhaps the king of the lewds, and by that we mean raunchy, saucy games where it's more about the fan service than the gameplay. Thankfully, Omega is one of the few that actually has decent gameplay to back it up. This is a loose mystery dungeon style RPG where you have to bring your prestigious academy back to life. It's simple but fun, although you may end up blushing at all the fan service going on. I mean, this game doesn't mess around. When you level up, your boobs get bigger and bigger. When you upgrade your character, you tickle them until they splash all over screen, at which point you consume it. At least that's what's burned into my brain. It's been a long time since I played it and reviewed it, but I really enjoyed it very much. The Asian physical release is the one you want. Japanese does not have English. There's a standard edition as well as a gorgeous collector's edition with some awesome box art. It's big and bold, just like the game itself. Fluttershout, a member of our Discord, showed off this one for you guys to enjoy its interesting contents. Thank you, Fluttershout.
Mistover is an often overlooked import RPG because, like a few others, the physical release came a while after the digital. This is an RPG full of deep mechanics as you traverse dungeons and face off against the mist. It's a consequences based game too, since what you do can often affect what happens in the future. It channels the legendary Darkest Dungeon in many facets, although not quite reaching those heavy heights. It received mixed to slightly positive reviews, so perhaps it won't be quite so high on people's shopping list, but it's obscure, unique, and at least worth a shot with the demo on the eShop.
While Final Fantasy X and X Part 2 may have a Western physical release, there is something far more special about the import versions from Hong Kong and Japan. The Western release was a bit crap, if we're being brutally honest. Of the two games, only the first was on the cartridge, while the sequel had to be downloaded via an update. The Asian releases are much better because both games are on the cartridge with no download required. Square did not take the cheap option in these regions and paid up for the more expensive cartridge, which for us signifies they are looking out for the consumer more than the profit. That's why we highly regard this import. Not only is it a quality game, but there's almost an obligation to show publishers that this is what we want. This is how you truly own your game. What is there to say about Final Fantasy X? It's one of the best JRPGs ever created, and perhaps the best starting point if you're looking to get into the series. It offers one of the best stories, with some of the best characters, and is most certainly needed in your collection. Its sequel is incredibly divisive, but it does have a lot of fans too, and is worth another look if you passed upon it back in the day. Depending on when you're watching this, then is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon may be one that struck off this list. This action dungeon crawling RPG has a confirmed Western release, but with no specific date since it has been pushed back due to development issues. While not a great game by any means, fans of the multimedia Danmachi franchise will probably get a kick out of this game despite the simple enough gameplay. Following the story right from the beginning, there are heavy visual novel elements as you take missions to go into dungeons as two of the main characters. This will not win any awards in terms of quality, and the current English translation for the Asian release is borderline legendary in how terrible it is, but we got some simple enjoyment out of it. It also has a lovely collector's edition, which Fluttershout, once again, a collector in our Discord, was nice enough to show off to you guys. Thank you.
KEMCO RPG Selection Volume 1 is a Japanese release that includes 4 JRPGs on one cartridge. This is from a company that are known for their budget titles, and these are very much on par for the course. As long as you don't go in with high expectations, you can enjoy 4 simple JRPGs. This selection includes a few of the company's most well-known titles: Dragon Sinker, Revenant Saga, ATELIER Lost, and As Divine Hearts. It's worth expecting more of these releases in the future, as the PlayStation 4 already has 4 volumes of the same kind.
And guess what? There is already a second KEMCO release, but this is an Asian region's release, not Japanese. This is called the KEMCO RPG Omnibus, which includes Revenant Dogma, Illusion of Laphalcia, Cronus Arc, and Legend of the Tetrarchs, which are perhaps some of their lesser known titles. This makes it a rather quirky release despite the budget quality of the games themselves. Once again, this is one for the collectors out there who may have missed something obscure like this.
Moero Crystal H has the honour of being the only game on this list that isn't actually out yet. This is up for pre-order right now, exclusive to Asian regions via Play Asia. This is the first time it's been available in English, and it's a raunchy, sexy dungeon crawling RPG. Lots of risque elements that make it an adult-orientated title for those interested in fan service. Pre-orders are now open for a standard release, as well as a collector's edition which includes a soundtrack among some other lovely things. I've got my order in, have you?
Ninja Jajamaru Collection is one that could have been omitted from this list, as no one would have noticed. Not because it's bad or uninteresting, but many don't realise there are a couple of properly old school RPGs in this collection alongside the platformers you probably expected. In this package you get 6 games from the series and 1 brand new entry. While this physical import won't be high on your list, it's a nice quirky title, a curiosity that will stand out in your collection.
Oninaki is only slightly relevant for this list. The game did see a limited physical release in various Western territories, but it's not the easiest or cheapest to get a hold of now. I guess Square Enix got burnt out at all the leftover copies of Lost Sphere on shelves. But anyways, the Japanese physical release does have English and is very widely available for import. This is the 3rd game from RPG Factory, the makers of the aforementioned Lost Sphere, as well as I Am Setsuna. It's supposedly fairly decent, nothing special, but for the budget they had a commendable effort.
If Super Robot Wars was too much of a pushover for you, then turn your attention to SD Gundam G-Generation Cross Race. It's a bit of a mouthful, but much like Super Robot Wars, it's a great strategy RPG that fans of Gundam will get a massive kick out of. It doesn't pull any punches either. You can follow the storyline of many of the Gundam series, each of which feels like it follows like episodes of the anime, so you've got a lot of variety here in terms of story. It may not offer the same wow factor as the Super Robot Wars series, but the pandering to Gundam fans is a dream come true. This is a massive, chunky game packed with Gundam goodness.
Now, why play a JRPG when you can make your own? That's what RPG Maker MV allows you to do. It's a legendary game making tool that allows you to make the wildest RPG dreams come true. A Western release of this has been planned for a long time, but has been delayed indefinitely at the time of writing. So if you don't fancy waiting around, you can pick up the import with English on the cartridge.
Since this list has been full of mostly quality titles, it's only fair to end it with a bit of a turd. World Neverland is a kingdom simulation game with mild RPG elements. Whilst you mine, farm, date, cook and so on, you also battle it out against monsters in what is perhaps the worst looking game on the Nintendo Switch. It looks truly awful in pretty much every aspect and should only be added to the collection as a morbid curiosity.
And there we have it, guys. These are the Asian exclusive Nintendo Switch RPGs that have English on them and are just begging to be imported. Well, aside from that last one, remember, if any of them take your fancy, please consider using the links in the description below and the pinned comment, using our coupon code to get a lovely 5% off every physical purchase. If you want to keep up with all the Switch imports, then tune in every Monday for an update on all the weekly physical releases, including imports. Special thanks to our executive producers Dane Wilkinson, God of Resin, Gannicus and Jonathan Rumo. Check out some of our other tasty videos that you ain't gonna wanna miss. We'll see you guys next time, take care.